Mike.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Hi, Mike.
Hi. How's everyone?
We're good. We're here. Oh, I guess he won't be signing in here. I mean, I knew he wasn't coming. Okay.
Okay.
Call to order the
What's my agenda? in there?
meeting of the City Infrastructure Committee. Roll call. We've Patrick.
Ready?
Yeah.
Counselor Insel?
Here.
Counselor Armstrong? Here. Counselor Kelly?
Here.
Counselor Dowdle?
Here.
Counselor Prenzer? Here.
Okay. At this point in the meeting, we present an opportunity for anyone in the public to make comments about anything that, any issue that you may see on the agenda.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Craig,
Step
go
forward,
ahead.
please.
Good afternoon. My name is Craig Squire. I'm assuming that you are perhaps in receipt of a copy of a letter dated April 10th that I delivered to the mayor's office. It was a letter addressed to Mayor Reed, but subsequently I knew that it was also going to go through the peruse of the Common Council as well. But essentially I'm here on behalf of my mother-in-law, Bernadette Zalent, and if you've had a chance to read the letter, it is hopefully self-explanatory, and I tried to keep the letter or the request somewhat brief. As I explained prior to the meeting, Rachel came over and introduced herself to me. All roads led to here. We did start some initial inquiries with Mike Brody, Steve Bowman from the Veterans Affairs Office, as well as a gentleman by the name of Mr. Lee, who oversees the aircraft restoration just off the traffic circle, what was part of the old base. And due to the fact that both parcels that we are requesting an either at the static display where the aircraft are or at the base chapel be considered for this request, in either case, Mr. Brody indicated that it would be best if I address the council. So again, the letter is I tried to keep it brief and self-explanatory. I don't have copies available, but I guess to substantiate the credibility and the extent to which, excuse me, Mr. Zalent contributed at the airbase, I have letters of commendation, various letters of commendation from what was then the base commanders, personally commending him for his artistry, as a stonemason, and the brickwork. Again, the specifics were the complete restoration of the historic building at the base chapel, the repointing the granite, as well as the display for the Fairchild trophies, which I'm not sure how many of you were longtime residents, but the Fairchild trophy was the SAC award for the ultimate strategic bombardment wing that won that competition annually. So he built that display as well as the static display, including the original one where the FE-111 was up on a pedestal, and I don't know if you recall all of the stonework around it, and then that concrete cone, and then the aluminum buttress that came up to support the plane. Of course, since it's now sitting on the ground, but he was involved with both of those static displays. So on behalf of my mother-in-law, we wanted to, I guess, give some credibility to his 20 years of military service, as well as to the artisan craftsmanship, dedicating his life to maintaining the base and particularly the restoration of the base chapel.
I just have a couple of questions, Mr. Squire. First of all, how large of a plaque are we talking?
We did not want to get ahead of ourselves because I didn't know where this.
Well, I mean, it's important.
Certainly, but to answer your question, I've done some preliminary looking, and what we were thinking of was some sort of a cast aluminum or bronze plaque. And again, I don't know what restrictions there would or wouldn't be. Either be molly-lagged or affixed onto the building or the static display of the aircraft, again, depending on the location, or possibly a granite wedge with the plaque affixed to it. So to answer your question, I'm just ballparking like about a 12 by 18, Similar to what you, terrible, it's similar to what you would see when, on those granite wedge displays in the cemetery where the plaque is facing at an angle, or fixing to the building, but along, nothing massive,
Okay.
along those lines.
The other question I do have is maintenance of it.
Okay.
Who would be responsible for maintaining it?
My wife and I would be, and Bernadette, with her years remaining on this planet, but we also have a memorial for him over at his cemetery, and we go there routinely because he has a military memorial as well as his graveside memorial. And my wife and I maintain that, no pun intended, religiously with my mother-in-law, so we would maintain that.
Okay.
Including if it required string trimming or if it became tarnished from acid rain, we would clean it up.
So I guess to summarize, you're asking for the ability to put up this plaque at either the site where the planes are in the Rotary or
Yeah.
on the base chapel exterior of the
That is
building?
correct. Either one of those two locations are extremely meaningful for my mother-in-law
Okay,
and her deceased husband. So yes, either or.
okay, thank you. Any other questions for
And
Mr.
like I
Squire?
said, at some point further, if this does gain momentum, consideration, or approval, if you want documentation to substantiate this request, because I realize that, you know, you can't just put anybody's name or
I
plaque
just
up
need
there.
to cut you because we have other things on the agenda.
So, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other members care to address the committee? Okay, reports from department representatives and discussion. We have received a request from anyway, we received a request from a gentleman, Mike Wayne, and another person has been working to provide a flagpole to put up by the aircraft and near the Rotary on the old base. The flagpole has been donated and will be provided at no cost. The company Adirondack Flagpoles has created a program, Second to Our Duty, where they take flagpoles that are in serviceable condition and restore them and refurbish them and ask to put them back on various sites. The flagpole that they have in mind came from Cumberland Head. It's 30 feet in height, 2 pieces. Will hold either a 5x8 or a 6x10 flag. Has a wind rating of 95. Essentially what they're asking the city to do is to install the flagpole, which should be at least 24 to 32 inches wide and 36 inches deep, 3 feet deep. The Adirondack flagpoles would then deliver and install the flagpole, including all the concrete work. They're asking for the city to take care of future maintenance. The exact location of flagpole we would determine, but they believe the veterans could easily raise $250 for a bronze dedication plaque to put on it. Again, essentially, after the flagpole is installed, they're asking for the city to maintain it and to replace the flag every year. I have spoken to, I know, Mike, you've spoken to us with your concerns, and Bill Tracy also has some concerns. So, Mike, I know you're concerned about the maintenance of it, as well as
Would
the
you mind
cost.
coming up to the microphone to speak? Because I don't know if it's broadcast unless you do.
Yes, Council, there are some maintenance issues that we would have to take on. Also, are we going to purchase a flag every year or every time it rips? It's another thing that we have to look at.
I know that in our conversations earlier, I know Bill, Mr. Tracy said that we're looking at probably about $1,000 worth of lighting and labor and so on for installation. We would have charges for drilling for
Yes.
the pole. And you anticipate, and we would also, the city would also eat the electrical costs of having the pole lit. And I know, Mike, you mentioned that you anticipated probably anywhere up to 3 flags a year if it was up every day with wind and weather at the cost of a couple
Yes, that's what we
$100.
supply, that's what we supply at the Oval now. 3 a year.
Wow, I never knew that.
A lot bigger flag also.
Yeah.
This would be a much larger flag that they're asking, a 5x8 or a 6x10.
No, the one we, at the Oval's a lot bigger. This
Oh,
these are
okay.
smaller flags.
Okay. Okay. So we're looking at a substantial cost, as well as having to maintain the flag, as far as having someone raise it and lower it when it's at half-staff or and so on.
Yes.
So,
Thank you.
thank you, Mike. Actually, while you're up, Oklahoma Avenue. John, is that Oklahoma Avenue?
Okay, this is actually Adam's project, so I don't know that I have the latest details, but he did provide a write-up. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet or not. But you guys have looked at it, right? Yeah, seen it, okay, all right. What he wrote is that there's a supplemental agreement in front of you for $33,000, and it's basically to provide for the engineering services between January 1st and the completion of the project. Originally, it was expected that the project would be completed by the end of last year. That didn't happen. The contractor's going to finish it this year. The construction, as I understand, is not going to cost any more than was anticipated, but there needs to be an engineer on site to do the construction inspection. So that's what this cost is for. The federal government, I believe, typically pays for 75% of the costs, which would, for $33,000, leave the city with a share of, Adam's got here, $8,250. But the state has said they would provide half of that local share, which means it would drop the city's share to $4,125. Something to understand, though, is that apparently the state's been a little delayed in their reimbursements or even agreeing to pay the costs. So it's not clear when and if the state will pay the normal share of what they would.
Has this been budgeted previously, or is this an unbudgeted item?
No, this is an additional item. I believe the capital project has sufficient appropriation to cover it. You guys looked at that? Okay. So, from the way I understand it, Rich would have to confirm this, but there isn't a need to increase the appropriation of the capital project. So if by budgeting you mean, is there enough money appropriated? That's my understanding.
But no, when I say that, what I meant by a budgeted item, this is something that hasn't been planned, that came up, it wasn't budgeted for.
Yeah, and it's not, and it has, directly it has nothing to do with the annual operating budget. The money's in a capital project, that money's already been appropriated, and I believe the city's share has been borrowed already. So just a follow-up question would be, all right, eventually how's it going to affect the tax rate? I don't know, but if the city's already borrowed the money and it's sufficient to cover this, then it shouldn't affect any of the budgeting that's already occurred to date and tax rates to date.
So we'll ask the Chamberlain.
What is the project, Oklahoma?
It's the, sometimes it's referred to as Oklahoma Avenue or the Old Base Marine Stabilization Project. There's an old marina on the air base. You go up and over a small, I think, one-way bridge to get.
Oh, okay, we're talking about the area of Lake Forest.
Yeah, back down in there. And what happened during one of the big storms was the wind and the waves destroyed the slope and eroded all the soil down there and all that, so.
The mayor sent us a picture of the remediation.
Yeah, so I think they're actually driving sheet piles and I-beams down there to stabilize it in back.
Oh, okay.
So ultimately, that's what the project is. It's FEMA funded, which there's been some confusion about to what extent. At some points in time, we thought it was 100%, and we were told, no, it's only 75, plus the state's coming up with another 12.5. So, but right now, the way we understand it is FEMA's paying 75%. The state has indicated they'd pay another 12.5 verbally. So the moral to the story is be prepared to pick up the full 25% local share. Hopefully, some state money will come in also.
Give me those figures, and not the percentages, but the figures, if it was the full 25%.
The full 25% for this $33,000 contract, the city share would be $8,250.
Can I have clarification on something, please? What's the 33,000 is to have an engineer?
To have engineering construction services while the contractor is finishing the work.
Okay, and so we would contract that out?
Correct. It's with a company called Stantec, and they have one of their engineers come up, and they're basically there full-time, monitoring.
Overseeing it.
Yeah, making sure it's done correctly, counting the number of trucks coming in, because I think some of the unit cost for it.
It's a unit cost project.
It's kind of like site supervision.
By the, like, for cubic yard of fill, for number of foot of pile driven, and there's a lot of documentation involved.
Would that normally be something that we would have somebody on staff to do?
Not on our staff.
Not on our
no,
staff,
no.
okay.
I mean, historically, when the staff was larger, for some of the smaller projects, some
That
of that would be
happened.
done in-house.
Yeah, okay.
Right now,
But not this?
there's no resources to do that right
So this is
Had-
typical outsourcing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now?
No,
now.
it wouldn't, not all of it would have been outsourced if we had full engineering.
For this project, I'm going to say yes, it would have been.
Right, I thought that
because of
was
the
your point.
Size and the specialty, and the fact that it's being reimbursed.
Right.
Okay.
The specialty portion of it, right, it dictates that you
Need a
professional.
specified
No
engineer.
pile driving, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. You know, if it's run-of-the-mill road work and water line and sewer line stuff, you know, we've had some in-house capabilities in the past. We still have some now. They're not as much as they were, obviously. But those are the kind of things we would look toward providing our own in-house inspection services for.
Mhm. Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
And
Thank
I
you.
guess you might as well stay up there because.
Oh, yeah, Hickey
Hickey landfill.
Now, hopefully I can talk about this one intelligently. As you may know, and I'll repeat a few, Patrick, out on the Hickey Road in Beekmantown, the city, there's an old city landfill. It was closed in 1977. It's about 30 acres in size, and sometime in the last 10 years, we were required to reclose it. We went in, we got a contractor come in, cut down 30 acres of trees, bring in a bunch of fill to create some grades and put basically a big rubber membrane over the top of it with gas vent wells to make sure that any rain would not percolate down through the waste mass and create additional leachate, because the groundwater beneath the waste mass and downstream has got contamination. So that reclosure's occurred, and we are now required to do what's called post-closure monitoring. We've got to monitor the groundwater wells, some of the surface water swales, and the gas vents to create a database and make sure that we're in compliance. Historically, the cost has been about $33,000 a year in order to have this work done. It's quarterly sampling and reporting, so it's 4 reports a year.
For how many years?
What's that?
For how many years do we need to?
At least 30.
Okay.
I tend to say forever, but it's a 30-year gig. As time goes on, we've built up a database. So we've requested a reduction in the monitoring from the state. And they've agreed to grant us a significant reduction in monitoring, but they want to make sure that we make some repairs out there. One of the stormwater chutes, the downspouts is damaged. It needs to be fixed, and the state said, yeah, we'll grant you this reduction in monitoring once you fix that chute. Mike Bissette's gotten some quote on county contract for doing the work. It's about $27,000. So we need $27,000 to do that work, and what it will do is reduce our monitoring costs from $33,000 a year down to $15,000. So this year, when we do the repair, it'll actually cost a little more, but over the long haul, it gets us an $18,000 savings each year, and over 20 years, it's $360,000, provided there's no more repairs in the future. So I don't know the exact amount of money that was budgeted for this work. It falls underneath, I believe, the solid waste component of the budget. There's a line item for contracted services with about $45,000 or $49,000 in it, but I suspect that there's other items that need to be paid for out of that line item. So I don't know whether that reduction got budgeted as reduced. Now we got to come up with the cash or what. I suspect we need $25,000 or $30,000 in additional appropriation in that line item. But Rich would have to confirm that.
Let me ask you this, John. Is there an urgency in this, or is this something we could put on next week's agenda?
We can go on next week's agenda because the work can't commence until we get things sought out right up.
Okay. So at that point, I could put it on next week's agenda with the budget figures. And
we did talk to the state because we needed to do the first quarter monitoring already. So we cut a purchase order for doing that, but then we talked to the state and they said, all right, since you're telling us you're actually going to go through it, we're not going to make you do that first quarter monitoring. So we're just kind of on the line.
So we've already saved $18,000.
What's that?
We've already saved $18,000 pretty much.
Oh,
that's
but something else though too is regardless of whether they give us that reduction in sampling, we're still required to do the repair. They're just making sure it gets done rather than giving us a consent order. They're dangling this savings in front of us and saying, hey, let's just do it that way. Do the repair, we'll give you the reduction, we're good to go. But they can't come in and give us a consent order.
And I guess I would have the same question about the Oklahoma Avenue with the
about whether it can wait.
Wait until next week.
I don't know the answer to that. I suspect. Are they back on site yet?
May 4th.
The contract is not on site.
No, the contract is not.
Okay, so I would suspect we got a week yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Any other questions for John?
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item 3. We have a request from the Director of Information Technology, Brian Brayton, to attend the New York State Local Government Information Technology Directors Association Spring 2018 meeting, which is in Saratoga Springs, May 15th through May 18th, at an estimated cost of $240. Anyone have any? I guess at first, before we do it, we have to have a motion to accept it before we can discuss it. No, not it's just in committee.
Motion at the bottom to move them all.
To move it along, okay. Any questions for Brian, discussion on? This is an annual meeting, Brian, for these?
Annual, actually. Do once in the spring, once in the fall.
$240 is cheap.
Yeah, so it's the conference registration is $100.
I've stayed in Saratoga.
Yeah. Right, so that $100 includes conference registration, 3 nights at Saratoga Hill. So,
Wow.
And then the rest is just mileage reimbursement.
Does this come out of your budget?
Yes, the funds that have been allocated to IT, yes.
Do you learn anything interesting?
Yeah, actually, it's so if you're not familiar with it, it's most of the county level IT directors, actually almost all of them, are invited. Most of them show up. Many city and town directors. There are vendors there, obviously, for us to look at the product, but probably the more interesting part is the many state mandates and things that come down from the state. That's what we learn about those ahead of time.
How much will be left after this expenditure in your funds?
Honestly, I don't know the answer to that question.
Because you don't have a budget, is that correct?
Right, there's no travel line, absolutely, yeah. So
Okay.
this will be coming out of something miscellaneous.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Brian? Okay, do I have a motion to move the request forward onto the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Counselor McFarland? Second?
You have to second it.
I have to second it, I'll second it. Roll call?
Aye.
Aye.
Counselor Edsel.
Aye.
Counselor McFarland.
Aye.
Yeah.
Old business. I was going to ask Mike and Mike, under not necessarily old business, but possibly new business, if there's any thoughts or any ideas at this point about repaving. I know we did receive word from our council, from Corporation Council or City Council, that we were not at fault in regard to not having engineering approved for the
On
mill
Prospect.
fill on Prospect Avenue. So that more or less frees us up to do similar projects this summer. Do you have any idea of
No,
where we've identified?
We're looking in the city, Mike and I are looking in the city for various projects we can do, various streets we can do. We're putting together a list for you, and you'll be able to see it. But right now, it's infancy, so we want to get together and do it, make sure we can actually do the work. And then the funding for such a project based on the main road project this year. And South Pool was a big issue. We've got to take care of that. We have some ideas how we might monitor what we're doing there, or change what we're actually going to do, and it might be cheaper than it was originally thought.
I will say that the Prospect Avenue project was a success and certainly very, very cost effective.
Right. And we'd like to see more streets in the city that we can do that on. Okay.
Thank
Are
you.
South Catherine and Veterans Lane on that list, you know? I know you said it was in its infancy, so.
Yeah, so we're looking at those. Okay, there's Veteran Lane.
Veterans Lane, isn't that also part state?
Yeah, there's also an ownership issue, so we're looking at that.
We've done preliminary, not preliminary, we had come up with a plan 3 years ago, Veterans Lane.
Yes.
And it's in the can, it's just a matter of working through ownership.
Yeah, those issues that we have to work around.
So the streets listed on the capital budget plan for 2018, those don't necessarily mean they're going to get
That's
addressed.
correct. Look where they're funded, what year they're on there. I don't see, they're not funded for every year. They might go out 5 years or 4 years, whatever.
Well, Pine Street, Battery, and Broad's listed for 2018. Would that mean what?
Well, we looked at that, and you know, that's another consideration of doing, putting a list together.
Right.
Okay. Okay. And the cost of Prospect, well, I probably asked that. We have it listed as 300,000.
97, I believe.
I gave you an estimate, 97, I did it for 66.
Wow, that's amazing.
So it was 66,000 to do the job?
Yes.
Yes.
Total.
So if we had 300,000 down, where's the rest of that go?
We did not create the $300,000 estimate,
No.
so I cannot speak to that.
Oh, okay. Because it's on the 5-year budget plan, so I'm just
Keep in
wondering.
mind, that's not money that
Right.
the numbers shown in that plan is not money that's been appropriated.
Appropriated,
or-
right, but it's.
Just an estimated cost.
But it's a budget plan.
Yeah, so I think what it means is that the money for doing Prospect, if it's gonna be paid for, not from CHIPS, will be borrowed at some point in the future, as part of a larger borrowing. So rather than borrowing 300,000, borrow 66,000.
But the work you'll be looking at for this year would just be paving. We're not talking any infrastructure, curbing, sewage, water.
Except for Main
lines.
Road.
Right,
Maybe
Right.
we're completely built.
right, okay.
What we're targeting primarily, council, is roads where we know the underground infrastructure is reasonably solid.
Okay.
Curbs, sidewalks are in good shape.
Right.
This is not something you can apply to your own scenario.
Okay.
Much like we did on Prospect.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Does anyone have any additional questions for Mike and Mike?
Well, since we don't have that, and, you know, it's getting to be 5, I wouldn't ordinarily do it, but we've got some people that need to come. Do you think it's worthwhile saying anything about Main Road, any of you? You had given me a brief update when we ran each other today, but is it worth your while to mention anything new? Nope. Okay.
Process of putting out the bid,
Okay, good.
that's where we're at.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Any of the department members, any other questions? Budget concerns, or? It's always budget concern. Okay. Hearing none, motion to adjourn. Councilor McFarland, second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
So to
We're gonna open that up.
Oh, okay. So they're okay to go, okay.
Mr. Squire,
Yeah.
we're going to discuss that, and we'll decide it next week.
Next week.
Next week, it'll be.
No.
No, you can go.
You-
We're gonna, it'll be discussed next week. It will be voted on next week.
It'll be on the agenda.
It's on the
next week.
agenda for next week.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Flush.
That's fine. That's what you were talking about.
Somebody must have moved these chairs around because, or else I shrunk.
You are
I
sitting
am
low.
really
You're
low.
sitting low.
I think you
I'm
swapped
sitting
chairs.
high, no.
Yeah, that's what I was just.
You may have to like spin around. I'm not sure how they actually. I don't know if that does anything or not.
Yeah, just test the chairs and swap them.
I didn't like his meeting yesterday, but I read it.
Okay, but we got this too.
I get everything you sent me. You're one of the most efficient people I know.
I have those things for you.
Okay,
You want them
sure.
now, or?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Chief, I was going to say, at some point within the next couple of weeks, I was going to do this with Chief Parkinson, but never got around to it. For a number of different reasons. But I'd like to meet at some point, Friday or Saturday night, go with somebody, take a tour overnight in colleges and session. I think you're the first one I
want to go to that too, actually.
I mean, there's I know there are 4 or 5 weeks left, so I'd like to do it at some point. Whatever your schedule. You just let me know what schedule works for you. Friday or Saturday, and I'll. Okay. Yeah, I'd love to. Absolutely. I mean, you could even do it the same way. Whatever's easier for you, whatever works. But I mean, I know you're probably not usually out at that hour on the nights, either doing a patrol, but. Good, thank you.
You know, the committee meeting can extend to work session, you know. It doesn't have to stop.
Thank you, ma'am.
Just saying. You could have talked.
And I told Brad I would read through this.
Talk a minute longer.
We'll meet next week sometime.
I know I didn't want to miss you. Yeah.
Right, I know. Okay, thanks, yep.
Do you not know who she is?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Which meeting was that?
You all finished your meeting already? And Mike is going to be on Skype in, correct? Oh, really? So I didn't know he was going to be on there.
Technological miracle.
Well, we'll see if it happens.
Everybody ready? Let's call this meeting of the work session for the Common Council. This is an opportunity for us to have any extended discussion on agenda items, or if you choose to go into executive session for any purpose, we can do that now as well. Please. Can't feel any need for an executive session.
Do you want to talk about our committee meeting now rather than take up time later, or what?
Yeah.
I mean, is that okay?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
So we'll just do that now instead of later. Okay. So I can give a report on the governance strategy and city operations committee. We had a meeting 2 weeks,
It's last Monday.
or this past
Tuesday.
Thursday. Or what?
We had the meeting. Oh, you're talking about our meeting.
Wait, are we doing our
I was just going to give the update about Open Gov.
Oh, go for it.
No, it's okay. All right, so.
I thought we were going to get the committee notes out of the way, but that's fine. Go for it.
Well, we met with Brian Brayton and some sales reps from Open Gov. It was really helpful, Brian. Thank you for being there with us, and your perspective was essential, and so thank you. We got a little bit more of an overview, and we had lots of questions. You know, one that I remember you bringing up was, well, we have to input all of this information ourselves, and then you will help process it, but that still requires us to have somebody to do that job. And do you want to add any other of your concerns?
The software itself, I mean, you don't necessarily input the data, but you do have to align the budget lines, the categories, and other areas of organization that the software would use to then show you that data. And I don't want to say it's a one-time process, but it's that part is limited, but it's involved.
Yeah.
And would require much support from the Chamberlain.
Mm-hmm. Right. Just put another thing on your to-do list, no problem, right? No, but I mean, we're just in the preliminary stages of analyzing whether this can be something of service to us. And Brian thankfully also let us know that there were capabilities within Munis that might serve the same purpose, and go ahead and take that ball and run with it.
Yeah, so there's another product that we can look at and kind of compare and contrast. I did get back in touch with Jennifer to tell her that day is a Saturday.
Right.
It probably doesn't work, so as soon as we get back from that.
Right, so we'll have a sales rep from Munis help us to sort out whether we can do that. That would be an additional component?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
It's not something we own now, and it would be their, I don't know if I'd call it direct competitor, but their closest competitor to the Open Gov product that we looked at.
Right. So, I think, do you have anything to add, Josh?
No, sums it up, and
All right.
Brian's going to follow up with a number of questions and kind of get back to us.
We're
and
gonna
see
meet
what
again.
he has to offer. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
I guess I can give infrastructure. We just met. We had a number of items that we will be bringing up. Will be on the agenda for next week's meeting. Number one is a request from the Zalent family to have a commemorative plaque placed in honor of John Zalent, who was a retired Master Sergeant at in the U.S. Air Force. He was a Mason and responsible for a lot of the masonry work done on the base, and his family would like to put up a plaque in his honor on city property over at the base, either near the planes by the Rotary or affixed to the old chapel base, which he did a significant amount of masonry work on. So we'll have that on our agenda next week. Additionally, we've also had a request to have a flagpole donated to the city, refurbished flagpole donated to the city, and it's being asked that we dig the hole and provide lighting for the flagpole, as well as provide annual maintenance to it and supply the flags, as well as be responsible for raising and lowering the flag and so on at appropriate times. That will also be on the agenda next week for a vote. We did receive a request from Adam to have engineering services, funding for an engineer essentially to monitor the Oklahoma Avenue old base arena site. FEMA has pledged 75% of reimbursement. The state 12.5%, but that is a verbal commitment. Nothing is written in the so, once we get the exact figures put down, we will have that in the form of a resolution on next week's agenda, along with expenditures to reduce the monitoring costs of the Akey landfill that John has put forward. Initially looking for $27,000 expenditure. Also, on this week's agenda, we have a request from Brian Brayton to attend the Local Government Information Technology Directors Association meeting in Saratoga, May 15th through the 18th at a cost of $240, which will come out of his budget. And also we heard from Mike Brody and Mike Bissett regarding possible paving plans for the year, although we don't have any clear plans besides Main Road and possibly South Peru. We're hopeful to do some more mill and fill, and we'll identify some streets in the near future to potentially do some mill and fill. That's it.
Thank you. I realize it's a relatively thin agenda tonight. Is there any other issues you'd like to discuss, or?
Well, parking is going to be coming up soon on the parking study. We've gone over that. I know Rochelle, Dale, and Peter had a conference call with, well, I don't know for sure, but I assume you had a conference call with John yesterday morning with John Forster. Matthew Miller and I had another conference call that took place yesterday evening, which I thought was very informative. I don't know how your guys' meeting went, but it definitely seems like we need to get moving on that issue very soon. Start getting into conversations with other entities about replacing parking if need be, and definitely getting a parking management scheme up and running probably sooner than anything else as far as that goes. And we're going to address that next week more, right?
Well, there'll be in-person conferencing with John Forster, and I think it will be important to clarify exactly who else in the city needs to be in on this conversation. So, I mean, we had some discussion about that with our questions and comments. In order to make up an entity, if that's what we're moving toward, how will it be designed, under what auspices will it be run?
Are you gonna blow up, Mike?
Yeah. So anyway, we're in conversation with Matthew, and we're looking for a direction here.
Yeah, definitely. But that's the thing I can see taking up the biggest part of the agenda next week, and a lot of the discussions.
Right, because we have
you know.
a forum also on the 19th, and then we'll have meetings, was it the 17th, 18th, and 19th?
Yeah, he'll be here Tuesday afternoon through Friday morning.
Okay, good. And thanks for arranging that.
I think everybody in this group has met with him in some of the previous public forums where he's come to town, and he's actually addressed the council before your time, to address the council collectively before as well. As you know, something that I think is very rare for consultants, he actually reported to us at the end of his report that he hadn't spent the entire sum we devoted to him and offered to continue to provide services and implementation of your plan and this follow-up as well, which I think is very honorable for him to have done for us.
I also will add to, probably I could hold off to the meeting, but just minor for point of information, next week Councilors Kelly, Dowdle, and I are going to meet to further discuss the management compensation plan and suggestions that were put forth at our meeting of last week.
Since we met last, Senator Little and Superintendent LeBrun and I met. I briefed you in preparation for going into that meeting. We're getting closer to figuring out some sort of way to do all this together, do the repairs on the Webb Island Bridge. You very carefully articulated your concerns. They've carefully articulated their concerns. I'm still hopeful there's some way to do it as a partnership, and I'll certainly report that back to you if there's any more developments. I think that at this time we might be able to get to some point where the interests of both the school and the city taxpayers are protected, and that facilities are able to service at least for a little while longer, a number of years longer. So I'll report back to you.
Wasn't the hope 20 years longer? Something
Their
like that?
hope is to do some repairs that will allow the life to be extended by another 20 years. At that juncture, it seems to all sides that the costs of doing something more permanent than that are become so prohibitive that it may not make sense at all to do anything beyond that, but at least we'd have another generation of residents and kids enjoying that. So I'm hopeful we'll be able to come up with something still. Anything else anybody would like to discuss before our regular meeting, which will begin in about 10 minutes? Seeing that, we just take a brief recess and then continue on at 5:30 for the council meeting.
Sounds good.
Peter. Peter. It looked as though they're not a big
So I'll reset that up.
We should get that final. It's not a big deal about that, but
Typically it happens at the end.
Want me to sign it now?
Well, he won't stay.
Yeah, you're gonna stay, right?
Okay. Awesome. So we do that first, I try to sneak out without saying.
Call your teacher. Make sure that if you leave early, I'm gonna call him and tell him.
I know exactly what you're.
Yeah, yeah.
This meeting will hold soon.
It'll be private.
So,
There might be things that they'll say, you can't implement that, this is why you can't do it. I would just say it's not more effective. So I think everything after that, they say it's important. If everybody agrees this is workable, there's
so
a
do you
stakeholder
think
you want to
that
speak to.
I mean, I'm not. I mean, I would totally expecting that.
Well, I'll help you in any way John will too, but ultimately, since it's the council's decision, the council had to be a big part of it. I'd hate to just put the plans I develop onto your last, you probably say guys.
Formulating, I think that I don't feel very confident about my ability to foresee all of the operational aspects. So, I mean, I don't know.
Use that as a resource. And that would draw on John. John's the expert.
So, I mean,
it's going to matter as your resources.
Select out what needs to be done. You know,
I think they can do all the technical aspects. They need to know from you.
What do we select to have happen?
What are the, are you going to charge fees? What the fees are you going to charge?
So we can select from that list, you know, all of these recommendations that we think are important for the plan, and say to John and Matt, would you please put this together? Of the features of our plan.
To me, that's just explanation. You decide what you want. Now it's up to us to administer. Yeah, you don't need to know where the but you need to figure out where the front costs are going to be, how much your card is going to be set.
We have to decide.
Yeah, well, that's what the public's going to want to do that for you, right? They're not going to want to have a bureaucrat say where the next parking lot is.
I know it's a decision, but should make a decision rather than a
He's, John's already outlined what he thinks about it. If you take, for instance, said at Trinity Park, no, so there's an example. He made a proposal. How was that going to work? What else do you have going?
So, bring into those meetings our best idea, what we selected out as the most proposed three names whatever financial advisors just think about the actual implementation. I mean, you gotta know what the implementation is before you as part of it.
You need those feasibility.
Sure.
Meetings about this, the parking stuff, is any of that open to the public?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a forum next Thursday night,
Next Thursday?
the 19th. Yeah, before the meeting. Right.
Because I know you're talking about all kinds of meetings, I didn't know if there's others somewhere.
Well, those are between, well, should those meetings between John Forster and Council be covered?
If it's the full council, it hasn't right now.
Well, it hasn't been organized that way because we can't ever organize with everybody together, otherwise we're a quorum. So, why don't you email us? Do you have the plan? It's online. It's on the proposal, I mean. Proposal on the city website for all of the suggestions the expert made. And then we're trying to sort through them and come up with a plan. Okay? And then email me your concerns and I can also convey them. I hadn't planned to make those meetings between counselor and consults public.
But next Thursday,
They'll be having a forum, yes. And what time is that forum supposed to be? Next Thursday, the parking forum. Is that just at 5?
Did I know there was?
Yeah, that's been in the email that there'd be a public forum. When Matt emailed us about meetings.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
my head is exploding. But I'm getting the feeling like it's our plan. So that needs to be discussed. How that.
That's our plan. What's our next one? If that's our plan, what's the next one?
Exactly. Yeah, gotcha. So what time is the forum meeting? Was that scheduled for 5? Okay, I'll double check that. And how soon does that need to be publicized? 5 days?
Not very long. It's not like one of our local law hearings.
Right.
Beth, would you know, if things came up, how long do they have to announce these public forums?
Those were like a public notice that we were saying, when Joel and Paul did it, was maybe 3 or 4 days ago.
Yeah.
It depends on how long you want.
Well, if you see Matt before I do, it depends on whether he comes back, I would say it should go out.
When are you having it?
Where?
No, when?
Next Thursday, the 19th.
After this?
Before this? I don't know. I didn't
The
actually.
meeting that comes up next week, what's the second?
It's closed.
Safety?
No, they're public.
Must be budget.
It's budget.
Okay.
The thing is, you can't have a public hearing, I mean, at 4:30 unless you guys aren't going to be there.
What if we have a public forum at 5?
Why does he want it on Thursday?
Yeah, that's just when he scheduled it.
Have one
There
on
he is.
Wednesday.
There he is.
Have one on Wednesday too.
All right, why don't you talk to-
John is here Tuesday. Hey, Matt. The council would like to have many good opportunities for a public forum as possible with John in town. I think you're
just
planning on this Thursday. Planning to see that working. They've got their committee meetings at 4:30. We have a work session at 5. Were you thinking planning for our work session, which is fine?
That's what I was going to substitute for. I guess I should have asked.
Do you feel half an hour is long enough for a public forum? Or would you like to have some other one instead?
Yeah, I mean, if it goes longer than half an hour, is the common practice is to push the start of this?
We start the council meeting at 5:30.
He's here the 17th.
Yeah, he gets here Tuesday
And so maybe
afternoon,
could we do it Wednesday, the 18th?
Yeah, just here,
Yeah,
just like
just in council chambers, and then we would have, you know, I mean, we could say 5 to 6 or
5 to
something.
however long it even takes, right?
I could check with him. I know he had some things that he had to do while he was here.
Okay.
But I'll see if
Just
Wednesday-
double check. Right.
So you're thinking 5 to 6 or however long it's going to take?
You said leave it open. I don't want to leave it open.
Yeah.
You talked about
I might be safer to go 5 to 6:30.
Okay.
having that in addition to him being here on Thursday evening for a talk.
then Thursday evening.
5 and
Just address the council, yeah.
I think that's a good way to do it.
I'll try to sit down with you tomorrow and hash out some of these considerations, okay? All right.
And trying to get straight in my head who from the city's going to need to be involved in the conversation about.
Okay, I know. Let's talk about it tomorrow, don't worry. All right?
Did Senator Little's office said we're allowed to put out a press release on our...
She never called me back, she said I have to have it. So maybe shoot it out, or send it to me.
Okay.
Unless she's left the message when I go back here.
Missing Peter and Patrick.
There's Peter. Is he under the table?
Did you hide Patrick over there? Hey Chief, can you go arrest Patrick McFarland? There it is. I'd like to call the meeting of the council to order, and we begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the
republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
That was the least in sync
Yeah.
pledge we've ever. Roll call, please.
Mayor Reed.
Present.
Counselor Armstrong.
Here.
Counselor Kelly.
Here.
Counselor Dowdle.
Here.
Counselor Ensel.
Here.
Counselor McFarland.
Here.
Counselor Kretzer.
Here.
I've really no comments tonight, except we'll be going down to meet with other mayors tomorrow and discuss the Bitcoin or cryptocurrency issue, just to let people know it's still in the forefront of our minds. A couple of the councilors have been joining me with other experts in the city and beyond to come up with some good policies from a public safety, building codes perspective. As you know, we're still analyzing the Public Safety Services Commission ruling that came out the same night as our moratorium, and we believe that that does protect the taxpayers and ratepayers of the city, but we want to be absolutely sure that that's the case and see if that requires any more work. And our experiences are being shared by other communities. There's been a number of communities now that have adopted moratoriums so they can bide their time to figure out how to proceed on this issue as well. So people are watching the work we're doing quite carefully, and that's the purpose of the meeting, for us to present to other mayors, other representatives, and the state government in Albany our progress towards seeking some sort of resolution. And I'm going to reach out to the state and find out ways that they could perhaps assist us in some of our challenges, which are environmental, sustainability and energy resource issues, building codes, public safety issues, ratepayers issues, and economic and job creation issues. It's a very complicated issue itself, and we continue to work on it. I think at that evening, Councillor McFarland well expressed that this isn't something we want to spend 18 months doing, and we are trying to complete these tasks as quickly as we possibly can, making some headway and working at the same time with industry experts too. So I'm sure you'll hear more about it, and I'll report back to you the results of that meeting in Albany tomorrow.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on April 5th, 2018 are approved and placed on file among the public records of the City Clerk's office.
Moved by Councilor Kretzler and second by Councilor Ansel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Passed.
Resolved that the payrolls of the various departments of the City of Plattsburgh for the week ending April 4th, 2018 in the amount of $432,534.91 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn in the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Dowdle, second by Councilor Armstrong. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Passed. You've seen your packet, the usual written reports. We also asked for an update from our various committee chairs, beginning with governance strategy and city operations. Councilor Kessler.
Councilor Armstrong touched a bit on a meeting that we had with OpenGov that provides software for strategic planning, among other things. Brian Brayton was at the meeting as well. We were able to use his years of expertise in asking some very valuable questions. We're hopeful that by using some type of software in this fashion, we'll be able to not only streamline the process for budgeting, but also provide a more transparent avenue for constituents to be able to also understand a little better the process. It's said that it could save, upwards of, 1% of our budget in savings. So that's still yet to be determined, but Brian Brayton's looking at other alternatives, also working with our current provider, Munis, to see if there are additional modules that they could potentially provide that could add some of the functionality that we don't yet have that we're looking for. So that's ongoing. Councilor Armstrong, what else are we doing?
Nothing.
We're still setting the date for the parking studies,
Parking
for
study.
public forums for next week.
Absolutely. So, definitely next meeting will be a big one for updates on the parking study. And I think that's probably it at the moment.
Thank you. City infrastructure, Councilor Ansel.
As I said earlier, we met as a committee earlier this evening. There are 3 items that we will have on the agenda next week to be decided, and also we have an item on that was forwarded to tonight's agenda regarding travel requests by Brian Brayton.
Finance and budget, Councilor Kelly.
I'd just like to remind everyone that our next finance and budgeting committee meeting will be next Thursday, April 19th. And, we'll have updates and agenda for you well before then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public safety, Councilor Dowdle.
No updates since last meeting. We will meet following the finance and budget with an agenda to be announced.
I think this is the first time we have the luxury of seeing Chief Ritter in uniform.
Yes.
We've been seeing him in his detective attire lately. Welcome. Plattsburgh Public Library, Councilor Armstrong.
No updates?
And MLD, Councilor McFarland.
No updates at this time.
Thank you. It's resolved the reports as listed are hereby ordered, received, and any written reports are placed on file among the public records of the City Clerk's office. Moved by Councilor Ansel and second by Councilor Armstrong. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Passed.
Resolved that the bills ordered by the Common Council for the week ending April 13th, 2018 in the amount of $933,958.14 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn in the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor McFarland, second by Councilor Dowdle. Discussion?
And these will include last week's as well, because there was none last week.
That's right. Last week's was 0 for that amount. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. This is an opportunity for the members of the public to please come and address the council on any issue on the agenda tonight. There will be another opportunity to address the council on other issues at the end of the meeting. given there's not much on the agenda, not much to talk about right now.
No restaurant opinions about Brown traveling.
So let's continue, please.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves Director of Information Technology Brian Brayton to attend the New York State Local Government Information Technology Directors Association Spring 2018 meeting in Saratoga Springs, New York from May 15th, 2018 to May 18th, 2018 at an estimated cost of $240.
Moved by Councilor Armstrong, second by Councilor Ensel. Discussion?
All I have to say is that when I was a department chair, I wish that there were 3-day conferences for $240.
In Saratoga Springs.
You sure you just didn't find them? Okay.
A roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Are there any resolutions for initial consideration tonight? Or new business or council reports?
I'll just add, as I said in our meeting earlier, that Councilors Kelly, Dowdle, and I will be hopefully meeting at some point next week to discuss the management compensation issue.
Thank you. Any other new business or councilor reports? Seeing none, this is another opportunity for the public to please address the council on any issues of mutual concern. Please.
Absolutely.
As Councilor Kretzer passes these out, I don't ask that you refer to these at all this evening. You'll have plenty of time in your own time to refer to it. I just want to let you know why I'm addressing it. I'm here to exercise my right, according to the DRI application, to challenge and appeal the denial of any funds concerning our DRI application. My name is Peter Regnier, by the way. Our application was for 22 and 20 Brinkerhoff Street, which currently is the home of Booth Insurance and SIP Restaurant. My wife and I's corporation took that location from it. It was like a purple sandwich block, which kind of unsightly colors on Brinkerhoff Street, and maybe we can address them. But I took that from that color scheme into what is the stylings of an late 1800s English pub. For those of you that haven't been there, it's really nice. And to go inside, we also spent thousands of dollars redecorating the inside. The inside actually holds some theater stills that were put on giant boards that hung in a silent movie house for years, and then were hanging in a restaurant on Coney Island before they found their way to Chateauguay, of all places, in a second-hand store, which I saw them behind a velvet curtain, and lo and behold, I bought them, and they're part of the decor. I encourage you to go in and experience it. We really have gone a long way. That didn't stop, though. Kyle Dyer, who is the restaurateur in there, has spent a lot of his own money with Dean Jolly on new equipment and his flair for the continued redecoration on the inside. Also, he has 10% off. If you go in there and tell him that I sent you, anybody in this room, if you just tell him I didn't give you a card, you can get 10% off there, if that entices you to go inside. Our DRI application, when submitted, was letter function perfect. Now, for those of you that don't know what that means, I was in the Navy and I was a radioman. I was on board the USS Jason, which was the 3rd Fleet flagship. And when we had the Admiral on board, we would have to send messages to every other ship in our part of the Pacific and bases. And you don't just sit there and type a message and send it, you actually cut it. And the term cut comes from, you go to a teletype, you type in your message, and it cuts a ribbon. You take that ribbon over to a send machine and you hit it, and it sends it. It reads it and sends it. It has to be letter function perfect. And what the function means is that there's some buttons that you push on your keyboard that, when read by the receiving teletype, will ring a bell, will flash a light, to just show you, because it's noisy. I'll tell you what, you go on some of these ships that have a lot of receiving teletypes, you remember the old teletypes, man, they were loud. If you have 20 or 30 of them banging away, you can barely hear what's going on. So if there's a receiving teletype that has an important message, that function on that ribbon will tell that machine to flash a light and ring a bell, and people on the other end will know. So I have an attention to detail that comes from that I used when I submitted this application. Now, our property fits to a T the criteria for the DRI application. It's a multi-use building. It has street-facing improvements needed, undervalued upper floor apartments. Actually has a 2-bedroom apartment with 10-foot ceilings that overlooks the lawn in front of the Strand Center for the Arts. I know Mr. Kretzer can say that he's looked out his window and he has seen the continued development of our space and has been in there. So maybe he could tell you exactly how far it's come. Now, we were denied not even a dime, which surprised me. Our total application was for about $48,000, and what was going to be done with that $48,000 would, you could probably triple the amount of the, the payback, so to speak, of the investment. And I'm not here to suggest that anybody that was awarded funds is not deserving. Every single one of these people that got a dime from that DRI payment deserves it because they're invested in the city. We have an emotional and financial investment in the city, and I applaud those people. I'm here because of the denial of probably the $1.5, $1.6 million that was left on the table, because as I understand it was about $2.5 million that was asked for. Now, I understand some of those applications don't meet the criteria. Be that as it may, other applications like mine do meet the criteria, I'm sure. My suggestion is, instead of cramming about $4 million into the Durkee Street lot, which received about under 1% of the vote when it was taken at the public hearing a couple of Februarys ago, and getting the most money awarded. Just think about that, the most money awarded to the least popular project. How about taking some of that money and investing it with the people who actually have a financial and emotional investment in the city, the current shareholders of the city, not to entice a developer that may come and may develop in a space where we're taking so much parking out.
Mr. Raimier, we're starting to run out of time. So.
Okay, well, I'll wrap it up. I've sent a letter to you and Mr. Miller outlining what I'd like. I would think that maybe within the next week or so, I'd like to sit down with Mr. Miller and anyone, and my phone number is on these cards, and any of you can call me anytime and ask me any question you want about my concerns. I know that I'm allowed to see the rubric gradings for each individual and the cumulative rubric grade for my property. And that's all I want. I want to know why it wasn't approved. And as I leave, I just want to share with you, when I was getting my undergrad degree at the University of Albany in theater, my first professor, the first words out of her mouth was, I don't care if you're going to be an actor, a director, a producer, a technician, or a designer, I want you all to understand one thing: theater is a collaborative art, and without collaboration, production fails. And I think the city can learn from that statement, and the way things are going right now, it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of collaboration, and I would just urge you to grasp a hold of that idea. And thank you for letting me address you, and please call me with any concerns. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other individuals, please come up. Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
By Councilor Armstrong, second by Councilor Ansel. Roll call.
Councilor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Dowdle?
Yes.
Councilor Ansel?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Councilor Kretzer?
Yes.
Thank you, folks. That was a short meeting.
Cook dinner now.
Yeah. Yeah, we asked permission.